Hey, what's up? I'm Allie, and welcome back to my channel. It's a new year, which means that it is time for a new reading spreadsheet, and this year I have redone what I've done in the past and have really created what I consider the ultimate reading spreadsheet with multiple options, a lot of different things to track as well, and lots of pretty graphs. This is a walkthrough of that reading spreadsheet, and the biggest difference this year is that the spreadsheet will not be free. You can still download my previous spreadsheets from years before. They aren't updated, the calendars aren't updated, nothing has been updated, and I will no longer update those. They are free though if you want a free option. However, this particular version is going to be on my Etsy store, which will be linked down below. This does take a lot of time and energy and effort and a lot of knowledge and things and whatnot. So I've also left my tip jar if you would like. That's totally optional though. It is a Google Sheets spreadsheet, so what that means is that you do have to have a Google account. Everyone pretty much at this point I think has a Google account. It's totally free to make. If you have a YouTube, you probably have a Google account. Anyway, this is a Google spreadsheet and it can only really be used in Google. If you try to load this into Excel, it's probably not going to function anymore just because there are differences within the different formulas and whatnot between the two. So just as a heads up, if you go to the Etsy, you will buy, there's a few different color options. However, there will be a black and white one that will be the easiest to customize. You can always change the colors for yourself. I've just provided a few. They're all the same, just a different color, basically. When you buy it, you will be sent a link, basically, to go to the Google folder in order to download the spreadsheet. And that is where we begin today. You're going to get to the folder. Now, there are two differences between these, and you will notice directly in the name, there is the normal ranking system. Now, this is 1 to 5. It does include 0.5 rating stars and whatnot. However, there is also the CAWPILE rating system as well. And if you're unfamiliar, that is G from the book roast. That is her creation that she made in order to kind of better rate things based on a few different things within the book. I know a lot of people who are combining her rating system with my spreadsheet, so I just went ahead and did the work for you. There you go. Quickly look at this and then I'll circle back to the CAWPILE one and show you what the differences are. There's the instruction page, and this is just has a few different things that might be something that you might need to add or customize, whatnot, adding a checkbox, changing the colors, simple things like that. Anything that would include creating some sort of equation or whatnot, I would highly suggest you look up how to do so. It's not something that I plan on really helping you with, so please do not message me asking to help change things unless you are looking to have a custom spreadsheet made. I have included my information if you are looking for a full customization of this particular spreadsheet. Hopefully I've given you enough options that you don't really need that and that you can make do with what is here. But if you are interested, I have included my contact information there. But please don't email me or DM me asking about every little thing on the spreadsheet. Hopefully this video will clear a lot of it up. I honestly just don't have the time currently to deal with 100 inquiries because I'm sure it will happen. Thread hasn't changed much from previous years. Basically, you put in a title, the author, the pages read, the hours listened, the month that you read it, the rating. This does differ on the other one. The rating system, you have whether or not you DNF'd it instead of adding. I did separate that from the rating before. This used to be part of the rating, but I know some people like to rate their DNFs. The main genre, the subgenre, the intended audience, also have whether or not it's part of a series, what that series is, what number in the series, if this book in particular completes that series. We have the format as well as the source material, so this is a little different. So we have graphic novel, manga, novel, novella, but then over here you can have audiobook, ebook, physical, or mixture. The release date, the type of publication, as well as the publisher, the author status to you. Are they a debut? Have you read them before? Are they just new to you? Is it a diverse book? I have to address what was wrong with the last spreadsheet, in that I included a lot of statistics about the author's identity, essentially, one of which was sexuality, and honestly, I just don't think that there is a really great method of tracking that. One, it doesn't have to be public knowledge for anyone to have their sexuality out there. Also, sexuality tends to be pretty fluid as well. You can be multiple things, so I just honestly didn't think that there was a fantastic way of tracking that all together, so instead I've just added, is it LGBTQ, is that rep within it, and you can mark that. The other thing was including author race, and I decided again not to include this because last year it was brought to my attention that how I had it was not good. It wasn't good. So I apologize that I had put the race in there as really an oversimplistic way, and it was really erasing a lot of identities out there, especially for people who are multicultural or biracial or multiracial, and I am really sorry for anyone who felt that I was trying to do that. It wasn't my intent. Of course, intent doesn't get rid of any harm that would have been caused. So anyone who had seen that and felt that they did not fit into that anywhere, I'm sorry. So what I have included this time around is just, is it diverse? Is it different than you, essentially? Because then the other thing is not everyone who uses this is going to be white. So there is that. So are they diverse to you? And then the only other thing I included was own voices. I like to think that most of us are reading diversely anyway, that it's just happening, but I know some people like to track whether or not they're reading diversely. So I think the most important thing is it diverse? Not always necessarily how. However, if you do need to track how, there is a diversity rep area where you can write it in. So yeah, so you can still track it to some degree. It's just not going to have a chart saying, you know, this percentage of this race and things like that, because honestly, it just felt a bit weird. Race is a lot more complicated than just 5 things listed in a drop-down menu. I did add, we have acquired, and then I did add the cover color, just because I think this is an interesting stat to keep track of. And then also just, you know, how many orange books did I read this year? Let's find out. So I kept the mood tracker because I did have some requests for that. The date started, the date finished, and this automatically days read will automatically fill out. I also added, did you update your Goodreads? Or you could change this to be whatever tracker that you use. So I use Goodreads just because that one's the most popular, but you could change it to whatever, because I'm bad at this. I go through and I'm like, wait, what did I put on my Goodreads and what didn't I? So there's that. And then readathon, is it a reread? Does trigger warnings, where you heard about it, things like that. So one of the things to note about this is say I want to know if DNF, like I want to move DNF because it's something I think is a lot more important than maybe the pages read. So you can actually select the letter at the top of the column and drag this to where you want it. This shouldn't mess with any stats because I've named all of the columns and whatnot, so you should be able to move these wherever and the information just follows. So if you ever need to move any of these around, you absolutely can. Now let's say I don't really want to track what the source material is. I don't care. Like, it's a book that I read and that's all that matters. You can right click on this and just delete column and it's gone. I would say if you are going to add anything, I would go to the end, right click on the end and say insert column to whatever. So insert column to the left or right, whatever, and then move it to where you need to, because it's just a little bit easier than sometimes if you do it from here, like say I insert left, it copies whatever was over here, whatever was in the original one that you were trying to use. So we don't want that to happen necessarily. So that's pretty much the only thing that you really need to edit and keep track of. This is it. This is the page. From there, we have the yearly stats, and this gets filled out as you fill out things on the books read page. And this I have, I've created a dashboard instead this year. Instead of having these stats kind of all over the place, they're just going to be easy to find on the side. So we have the books read, pages, hours, rereads, things like that. Here, you will change your goal to whatever your reading goal is for the year, however many books you want to read. You can also create your reading goals here, and as you mark these off, it will cross them out for you. I've put some suggested goals there. Your monthly reads will automatically fill out. Your series stats will fill out. Your author stats, your library stats, your diversity stats, things like that. The only problem with using the dashboard is that you can't just come in here and delete rows and whatnot. You actually would have to copy this information, and wherever you want to move it, you would then have to paste it. And you have to make sure you're doing it on that one side, because otherwise it's going to be a mess. So say I don't want to use this. We'll delete these things, but then if you would have to move anything up, you have to copy and paste it there instead. That's the one bad thing about kind of using charts all over the place like this. So books owned versus books read, and this does come from your owned book spreadsheet that is further in the tab selection at the bottom and whatnot. So there's that, and then your books read per month, the graph will change. Your genres might change. You'll see here that there is a lot of extra space, and I will talk about that a little bit later. Basically, these are changeable, and I've left room for you to add whatever you would like to add. Say you don't want these, you can just go here, delete, go up to format, clear formatting, and there you go. So I don't want to do that because I want you to have room, though. I have left room in a few places for things that you might add as well. So here, some people requested comic. However, I didn't think comics would be as popular as not having comics. So I had added that you could add comic, and there would be a space that it would fill in there as well. So that is the yearly stats page. If you would get rid of something, honestly, I wouldn't go moving things around. I would just delete it, block it out. You could block it out, add a quote, something, but if there's a section that you aren't using, I would just delete it, delete the things, and then I wouldn't really go moving a lot of the charts and stuff around because they are referencing certain areas of this page. Your monthly stats, you know, just monthly stats. I included things that I thought might be the most interesting. This is specifically more for like book bloggers, book YouTubers, book peoples who want to know these things on a month-to-month basis, the source, the format, the audience, how many ratings, how many genres, things like that. This is probably not going to be super useful to those who are just using this as just kind of like just keeping track of your overall stuff at the year end, but here it is in case you want it. All right, then we get into some options. There are 3 different series options. And we're going to go from most complicated to least complicated. So the most complicated page, it's my favorite, but it takes a lot, honestly, if you want to keep up with this. So I have created sagas, which is anything bigger than a trilogy, trilogies, duologies, graphic novels. We also have manga, and then unfinished or other. This is where I was putting any series that I had started but had DNF'd at some point, so that they weren't into the ones that I was really trying to keep track of anymore. So the thing with this is that this has to be an overly complicated spread area in particular in order for this to work. So when you go to add a new series into this, you want to copy this whole area across, including this check mark here. So you'll copy that, then you'll come down to where you want to paste it. You want to make sure you're in this number column where this number will be, and then paste it that way. The reason that you need to do the whole thing across is, one, if you even mess up, if you even put it to the side, it's going to go all the way over, it's going to be weird. But also, there is actually an exclamation point here. It is the same color as the box so that it is hidden, but that is how the overall series is being tracked. It is looking for that exclamation point. The other thing is you need this checkbox, because the checkbox over here shows when you have totally completed a series. So this one is looking for how many series there are listed. It's looking for these checkboxes. but then it's also looking for, have you completed any of these or not? So there's that. That is something that you need to watch as you're doing this. Now, this last column, this unfinished other, if you don't want it, you can go ahead and select all of these and just delete these. Just go ahead and delete all of these columns. However, if you don't want manga, you cannot do that because it will delete these. I would say either rename this or just block this out, block all these out, delete all this, get rid of the formatting, and then just have this by itself at the top. If you don't want to use them, rename them, whatever you want to do, but you cannot delete these particular columns. Onto something a little bit more simpler. This might be overwhelming. If you're not good at Excel, this one in particular will probably be a little overwhelming. So we have the series tracker option 2. So that's this one. You would put the title of the book, the author, the title of the series, the number, whether or not you own it, if you read it, things like that. And then you would put the type of series, so you could put, you know, is it a saga, trilogy, duology, you know, things like that. And you can even mark, is it unfinished, is it complete, are you caught up, in progress, not started, things like that. You can change this to be other things. I've just wanted to give a lot of options, essentially. So then, if you want to sort this, say you want to sort this by the series title. So you would go to series, you would do this, you would go to data, sort sheet, sort A to Z, and it will do it here. Say I wanted to do it backwards. I don't know why you would, but say you would, sort sheet by column D, Z day. So it will move those things as you need them. If you want to search within this series, say I just want to see one particular series, you can clear all of these, and I just want to see what I have in the Red Rising series. If you don't want that, you will just select all again to view them all. Say I want to see what's read and what's unread. So here the options are a little bit different. My face is in the way a little bit here. You would go to, I want to see everything that is false. Everything that I haven't read would be false. So then this will show me everything that I have not read. And then if you want to go back, you would just select all again, and then there you go. So I've already added those there, just so you can sort through them. These are movable as well. They don't have to be off to the side. You can move them wherever you need to. I've just put them off to the side so they're not in the way. And then the most simple version of all of them is you just put in the series title, the author, how many are total in the series, and then you just mark these off. You don't even have to worry about the title. You just mark off what it is, and then at the end you can put, is it a completed series? Are you caught up? Are you in progress? Things like that. I've added 15. 15 seems like a lot of books, but you never know. Some of those mangas and whatnot end up with a lot more, and you might have to add maybe like a second line or something. I don't know. And I love to provide options. We have 2 habit trackers, and one is a little bit more complex looking. Not necessarily complex to use, it's just more complex looking. And basically, this has been the same previous years. I did update the calendar, so this is a 2023 calendar. You would put how many pages. Let's say I read 800 pages on this day, but I didn't listen to anything, and you will see that this will automatically color in with the corresponding thing up here. This will track your total hours, your average pages, your average everything, and then there's a graph that will come up with the days and whatnot, and then over here you have your year end, how many days you read, how many days you listened, hours spent reading. Calendar colors sometimes like to revert back to other colors that I have used in the past on these. So if that would happen, you can select the one that is giving you a problem. Say this one's the wrong color, and you would go to Format, Conditional Formatting, and then that opens up a section onto the side here. So this section over here, and then you can change the colors. It normally goes lightest, darkest, whatever, and you should be able to see whatever color corresponds, whatever I have put as the key here, and change it based off of that. So there's that. And then for a simpler habit tracker, we have just, you come through, you put if you read physical or audio, and you just mark it. If you want, you could go through and delete this row, say you don't care about audio, maybe all you want to know is whether or not you read, and you could just delete each of those rows and just change this to did you read. And then this also has like a graph that fills out with the percentage of how many days you might have read. And then this is the same, essentially, the books bought, books sold, which I added before. And then it basically says how much you spent on books versus how much you earned on books. But I also included an unhaul category because that was something that some people had requested. And then it will give you your unhaul total as well. So that was just something that I added. Library books hasn't really changed, so that's just if you want to track the books that you're taking out of the library. New releases are here. I think the only thing I added was maybe if it's a special edition. I did add this 23 and 2023. For those who don't know, that is basically 23 books you want to read in 2023. So I've included where you can add a cover. And then you can change the status of whatever the book is. So basically, if you wanted to do this, you could go, you would select the cell. You would go to insert, and then you would go to image, insert image in the cell. You don't want to overtop because it will go somewhere. What I do is I do a link. You can get an image URL by right-clicking and then going to like copy image URL. And then you can paste that image URL here, and I just go to Goodreads and pull the covers off of there, and you paste that in, and then you'll have your book cover. So, and then at the very end, my face is in the way again, but it does have your total completed. As you complete them, you will, you'll get to see. The owned library, you can copy. If you have created this in the past, you can just copy and paste it over. The only thing I've added is a main cover color selection over here. And then beside that, there's also a special edition. You can mark if it's a special edition. If you're anything like me and you've been just collecting all the special editions, there you go. But then if you want to mark the cover color, because I have been finding this kind of important, especially if you're someone who rainbow sorts. So I've added the two things at the very end. So if you do copy and paste this over from a previous spreadsheet, it should just fill right in. And then it would leave these two slots open. And the readathons hasn't changed at all. I'm not going to talk too much about that. Basically the month, what days of the week, or what days of the month that it is, who the hosts are, a link to whatever the info is. Here you would put your TBR books and whatnot. So that hasn't changed. The only thing I think I've talked about is if you need to change the formula in here. So I set them automatically to 7 because a lot of them tend to be 7. However, you would just change the 7. Say it's a 10-day readathon, you would change this to 10. And then you could just add some rows down here. So you would have to do that. Okay, and then all of those drop-down menus and whatnot, in the past, it was a really complicated way to go in and edit those. I've changed it. So now you can come into this selection edits and you can change these to whatever you want. You can add, you can delete, you can, whatever you got to do. I have listed exactly what they are at the top. And then there's even more, you know, all the things, because I'm sure there's things that I have missed or things that you are specific about. So you can add those and it will automatically not only update the drop-down menus in that books read area, but also in your yearly charts, as well as your monthly stats. The only thing in the monthly stats, say you add a genre, you'll probably have to right-click and insert a row somewhere in the middle of this, because it will automatically fill them in. The thing to know with the selection edits, they appear in the drop-down menu exactly as you have them here. So if you want them to be in alphabetical order, select them, data, sort range, and then you would do it alphabetical that way. So that's just something to note. So say you wanted to add comics here, it now gets added there and it gets added everywhere else in the spreadsheet. So that is that let me quickly just show you the differences in the CAWPILE. I'm never going to say that right, I feel like. So the difference here is that, as you will see, there is not just one particular rating drop down. It has that, you know, what do you give the characters? A 7, the atmosphere, maybe a 4, the writing is a 5, the plot is an 8, you know, and then what it does over here is that it will do an average of all of these and give you what your overall rating would end up being. So then in the yearly charts, now this one might end up getting a little long because it is going to mark every single unique rating that you end up getting. I tried to leave some space here for a lot of growth of those numbers. It might outgrow this space, to be honest. I will have to play around and wait and see how this ends up turning out. If that would happen, you can get rid of the cover color red graph. Unfortunately, if you try to move this, it might be a little hard. You could copy and paste this somewhere and then just have to make a new graph from that. But yeah, hopefully this will be enough. Oh, I also forgot to mention that it will track the authors, and I've left the authors list pretty long over here, basically the whole side. And it will tell you your most read authors for the year, essentially. It will give you every single author and then how many times you read one of their books. And then the monthly stats is also a little different. So the ratings I put at the bottom to anticipate that this area might grow. However, these ratings will only show the ratings for that particular month. They won't show every single rating that you've done. They'll just show for that particular month, which was quite a doozy to come up with on that formula. So that's really the only difference, is just in the ratings and how a little bit of it is set up. But other than that, there is that. I'm trying to think if there would be anything else that I would need to mention in the editing process, but honestly, I'm not too sure off the top of my head. It's a big spreadsheet, and every time I think it's done, there is an issue that pops up. So I do hope that you will be kind of patient. I will try to put out any updates. If there would be an update, I would put it on Twitter. I would put it on here. I would try to email anyone who had bought it to let them know that there had been a change somewhere and what that change would be, and a step-by-step on how to update it to fit that change if you've already downloaded it and whatnot. So I do try to make sure everything's okay, but every once in a while there's just like one weird formula that gets messed up in the middle of a spreadsheet somewhere, and it takes a little while to find it. So yeah, obviously you're welcome to kind of change if you have the skill set to change what you want and move around what you want, but this is my new baby. So hopefully that is everything you need to know about the spreadsheet. Like I said, there's a lot. Some of it requires a little bit of skill, but for the most part, you don't really have to change anything for it to function. You can use it as is, and there might just be some areas that you don't use. But it's pretty easy to go in and remove areas that you don't need. And I would just say that if you're trying to add things that might be a little bit more complicated, there's tons of videos, wonderful videos on YouTube on walking people through how to do things on Google Sheets. So it's really satisfying to know those things for yourself as well. You're also welcome to look at the formulas that I've created and kind of copy and paste them if you would need to add them elsewhere on the spreadsheet. But hopefully I have given enough options that you will be able to take from this and just delete things that you won't use, because there will be still plenty that you can use. I know I use a much simpler version. I am considering having a simpler version, so that would be like at a discounted price that maybe would just be the books read in the yearly charts and maybe not necessarily a lot of those other sections. Really big spreadsheet. It takes a lot of time and effort. This has been at least a 3-year project, and I know I've put at least probably an upwards of 60 hours just in updating it this year. So yes, Anyway, thank you again for all of your support and enthusiasm for it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!